lovely session. Thank you for filling out the survey. We got about 50 results. We're not sure what to make of the results, except that you're probably sitting next to a nut job right now. So,
and I got to confess, I think I'm really blessed that we got such a nice slot. We're not competing with one of you, so you can all be here. We're really blessed, so thank you for this beautiful slot.
So most of us deliver training in either foreign languages or foreign countries, and it's using a different language, not necessarily your own. And we're all part of the global instructor scene. So,
and if you noticed, we are more or less neighbors, but you might have found out that she's not originally from the Cologne area, so we're pretty Europe here, right?
Yeah,
aren't we?
Multicultural, absolutely.
She wants me to collect. So first of all, thanks to our sponsors, especially just one more remark to the guys that set it up here. Thank you once again for 2 days of a fabulous MCT summit. Thank you. And of course, also for all the reoccurring sponsors throughout the years.
Thank you. So, what gave us the motivation to do this presentation? We've been chatting together over the last year. We've made some observations, and just on general things, the way people speak to each other, their body language, gestures, and it's quite clear that from our different nationalities, there are some big differences.
And at a certain point of time, we chatted about sessions that we saw both. Sessions somewhere at a summit, at a conference, on a video. Somehow, for example, I was totally delighted. I said that was one of the best sessions I ever saw, and you told me, not so much.
No, fantastic session.
Right. And we started out talking about what's the reason that we see the same thing, and there are some obvious reasons. For example, you can say that there is technical content that I'm super interested in, and Denise is not. But what we found out, that was not the reason. There were completely different things happening. She saw things that I didn't see, and vice versa. And there was another thing, if we remember, the things that you told me about experience in different countries, because you have to know that she's got the big advantage that being an English native, it's pretty easy to travel all around the world, because language is not a barrier, but there might be issues.
There might be. And so throughout this little session, we're hoping to highlight some issues, just to make you think about it. Of course, we're coming from a German and an English point of view, but this was relevant to everybody. So, anyway.
And as you already saw in the survey, we really need your participation. You already did a little bit, but we got something more. So, what are these issues?
Well, ignorance is bliss, of course, but as Thorsten mentioned, I often train in different countries, in particular Germany and Switzerland. Am I safe because I speak English? Actually, I'm not. It's a nightmare. I say jokes that nobody gets, and there's awkward silences. You know, the whirlwind goes along. Oh, okay, no good. People laugh around hysterically at something I don't know what I did. So there's got to be something different there. Behaviour I thought was rude, a little bit shocking for a Brit. It's just normal. So it's things like this that we want to take your attention to. So, for example, my biggest problem is I'm from London, really, and we speak a lot of dodgy words. One of them I've just said. And I'm very good at colloquial words that people don't understand around the world, and I forget this, so I have to remember that. So that's an issue for me.
For the rest of the world, I will start translating these things so you get it. For example, fraternization is one really interesting word you might not know. Denise told me that Monday morning situation, you come in and say, hello, I'm Denise. Because this seems to be very natural when you live in the London area. I told her that when I start on Monday morning, I tell, hello, I'm Thorsten Butz. And of course, I would address her as Frau Humphrey in Germany, Mrs. Humphreys. And then we chatted about using given names, family names. And the problem is that things you do in London, if you transfer it one by one to, let's say, Zurich, it might not be the same. And the deeper we dig, the more interesting it got. And to be honest, it's fun to be here, but it was so much fun for us to find that out because allow me to say that she thought, I'm quite sure, I'm completely crazy with all my ideas, but when we start fiddling around and get the pieces of the puzzle together, then somehow we found out that it can be very interesting. And you can decide that, of course, on your own today.
Okay. So are you ready?
Should we go to the next?
Yes.
So this is our agenda for today. We will talk a bit about formal and informal addressing. What this is, you will learn in a minute. I will talk a little bit about school grades. And the third part, I hope you will like it. We got some media content for that, and we got the referees cards. You will need that then. We will talk about the don'ts, which is typically important for all of those who are not English. But for those of you who are English native, stay in the room. I think there is a lot of things to observe from both directions. So let's start with the first part.
So the TV distinction. This is the linguistics, the way that they speak. They use this term, the TV distinction, the tu and the vu. We know most of these, but there are a lot more that we don't know about. The English doesn't have this. The Swedish don't have this anymore. But this is a problem for me because, as Thorsten said, I always introduce myself as Denise because that's my name. I don't care about the Humphrey bit. That's irrelevant to me. But am I opening myself up to saying I'm having a drink with you later in the bar after training? Some people might be thinking that because of my informality. So it's just an interest, that's all. It's not anything. It's not so important. And these days people are really relaxed about this because they know that I'm British and they expect me to just say Denise. But are they really thinking that it's okay? We don't know. So I just said that England doesn't have a TV distinction, but did you know that we did? Back in the 1600s. In this comment by William Shakespeare, Hamlet is actually disrespecting his father. But would you understand that from that particular sentence? Apart from the Old English, but using the word thou, does it to you convey a feeling at all? We can't do that anymore because we just say you. So this is the informal version, although we think thou is like posh because it's Old English, but it's not. He was insulting his father there. So it's just a common misunderstanding. And we just thought you might be interested in that little fact.
So what we want to find out is that how likely is it that people focus on the TV distinction? So this is why we're going to the polls now. You can grab your mobile phones already, because what we found out is that the English people, the people from UK and the people from the United States got lost of the TV distinction. And what I also found out is that, maybe some Swedish people can apply to that Sweden got rid of the distinction by law in the 1960s. I found it very amazing, because this is an information as a foreigner that I can look up at Wikipedia, but all the other countries I do not know. So what we like to find out is, what's your feeling about the strength of a TV distinction? So what we want you is that you grab your phone and now vote for us, and please explain what they have to vote.
So there's a list of countries, and you have to choose which one you think is the most important to them, the TV distinction. Just your opinion, just don't think about it too much, just what do you think?
Maybe German.
So you should have the app, and you should be able to just press a button.
So you got it already? Then we go to the result. You can vote still? I'm quite curious.
While we're waiting for the vote to come through, can you guess how many countries do have a TV
So
distinction?
the winner is? I hope you can read it. It still improves a little bit. It's Germany, right? It's my country. It's a little bit small letters, but I can translate it. We will put that in the annotations when we publish that. So it's quite easy, because what does that mean? I discuss that very often with people. It's somehow I expected that we will be in one of the top countries, but I talked to Pierre and some other people, and I personally thought that they are more strict in France. Now I know, talking to him, that is not true any longer. But somehow, we all do not know this. If you're pretty good in languages, just like Rose, or someone of you, then you might know that from 4 or 5 countries, but not from 20 or 25. So the big issue from my perspective is that you have to know that this doesn't have any meaning. If you address someone in German formally, that's just the default. So it doesn't have a meaning. It doesn't mean that there is a border between us, a barrier or something like that. So from my personal perspective. Okay, thank you for the vote. But there is another thing, right?
Yeah. Is it okay to say, "Hi, Donald," to this guy?
Will you say yes?
And what about this guy? No, so no matter what nationality you are, you can't say Donald. You have to give him his name, don't you? Whatever that name is you give, it's fine. Not Donald. So we're just proving it doesn't... My question just before the poll came up was, can you guess how many countries have a TV distinction? Any ideas? More than 10? More than 50? More than... Almost anyone because of this. This proves it really, doesn't it? There isn't a clear-cut no, because there are formal things. We say sir and miss and stuff like that in England. That's formal. So there we go.
And I guess it's also interesting for people from the United States, from the UK and all the other English-speaking countries, that there are differences in the languages, right? And you transport a lot with that. Maybe, maybe not.
I'd like to just add, this is your results from your poll. And I did only get 50 results back, so I'm not quite sure how we got this poll. Some of you do both. As I did say earlier...
For example?
There are some nut jobs in here. There we go. Yeah. Oh, okay.
The longer you look at it, you will find out that there's not a certain structure, right? It's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So don't tell me, seeing this, there is it's easy. It's black and white. No, it's great. 50 shades of gray, right? Something like that. So, and same is true more or less for the given name and the surname, right? We expected that almost anyone addresses his or her customer by Pierre. But that's not true. Not at all half of you said, I always address my customers by the given name. And that's also what came out by the survey. Interesting, right? So, resume?
As there are no strict rules, just play it careful. That's all I can say. Think about it, do your research, check the country you're working in. Mark?
Just one point, in that sense, English helps a lot, because since it's kind of the lingua franca between countries, the fact that there's no distinction does help us a lot.
If you remind
Good to know.
yourself of the Donald, maybe it's a lingua misunderstanding, a lingua of misunderstanding sometimes, because I don't know. So the second thing is that we'd like to talk about scoring for just a few minutes, because I really thought it would be interesting to compare the school grades, the marks that you get on school throughout the different countries. And again, I apologize if we didn't fill in your country. I apologize if this is not the complete answer. This is what I found out from the web. And I think the important thing is the big picture, because you have to find out that you could write books about any of these countries. For example, what I read about France is so complicated. To put it like this in 20 points, it's just this little piece of the puzzle. But it explains already that a number like 2 has completely different meanings. And for the English people, for the people from the United States and so on, they use letters. And so it might be obvious that the more points you get, the better it is. Because it's like collecting something. And the more bottles of wine you have, the better you can choose. But think about Olympic Games or sports. Who's the one with the gold medal? Number 1. So to me personally, 2 or 1 is a pretty good number. Yeah? Because I've been on school 13 years, and I grew up with that. And in German, the best thing you can get is 1. And another thing that's very complicated is I asked for the 2. You remember the survey. It's very different from what I read, what is regarded as a good result or a good enough result. So you can create some 3D data here to explain that. It would be super interesting, but we only have 1 hour. So again, this gets a good overview. And this is the thing you know, right? But to all the MCTs out there, take a close look. Because I did something. I removed something. So this is pretty neutral, right? It could mean anything. So, but this is the real chart. And the first thing that you might observe is that this is what your students see, and you might argue that this in the middle here is broken. Yes, it is. Have you heard of something in your environment, in your professional life that is broken? Sometimes it occurs. They don't really fix it. I got the ideas. Oh, sorry, I need to go back. Sorry, this one is the one I mean. And now it's translated to the left-hand side is outstanding and the right-hand side is poor. So keeping that in mind, how was I? I don't care if I get something like that, but honestly, that means nothing. Because on the left-hand side, in my country, it was a nice guy. I don't want to hurt him. I know it's important, so just click it. Because the natural way of giving someone a grade would be different. Wouldn't be all that 9 stuff. So what we found out is that in some countries, if you get, for example, a 7, what might that mean, Denise?
That's excellent, and even 6 can be considered excellent. You're never going to get a 9, never.
Yeah, that's a very relative score. And it depends on experience you don't have, because you're the first time in the country. I guess it's important. So these are your feelings about the grade 2. And it's a gorgeous proof of what I just said. You find everything. I love the kindergarten, by the way.
Can you see your word up there? I think some of you didn't read the survey very well. So, but it's negative, it's positive, it's weird, and other.
For the Microsoft service, for the Microsoft people, I know you're doing that with SQL. Okay, you can calculate that, but you never get the meaning out of it if you simply rely on a SQL statement. So maybe it's not possible to handle it differently, but numbers alone are very relative. So our resume is this.
Question?
So if you just go back to the previous slide, that actually shows something else, which is, so when I first read the survey, what was your feeling about grade 2? In Australia, grade 2 is the second year of school. And that's the reason why you've got answers like kindergarten, can't remember, because people have interpreted it as that. So again, now neither of those were mine, but it's another way of having that English or that way of speaking that's being misinterpreted. So
definitely.
And we shouldn't make an assumption
we apologize for letting you out. We focused on the European one, sorry, but in the stats. But we didn't, to explain it briefly, we didn't mention you on the chart. No, you don't care. So, but someone asked me, I'd like to add something, just a second. Someone asked me, how is it meant? And intentionally I said, we didn't answer that. Just think about it, and it is what's in your mind. So.
If you can go back to the different grade scales between countries, you probably will have noticed.
Wait, which one? Say stop.
The one before that one. Obviously, the French attitude is the more numbers we have, the better we are. Talking about the relative notation, you have to understand that in France, and Pierre can correct me if I'm wrong, the 10 will give you a passing grade to go to university, so that's what you need. You get a special mention at a 12, a good mention at a 14, a very good at 16. The Yuri congratulates you at 18, and I think at 20 you meet the president. I'm serious.
Yeah, yes. Thank you. Just for the record, Mark screwed the schedule. This is exactly what I read was that the difference between, let's say, 7 and 8 doesn't have the same meaning than the difference between 11 and 12. That's also very interesting. So it's a stretched thing, and that is a perfect example for what we wanted to emphasize on that a 10 can be a good number in a scale from 1 to 20. That's amazing. For many countries, it is not true. Sasha.
At some Italian universities, you have 15 the lower grade and 37 the highest one.
Yeah.
So it's even more complicated.
Yes. Yes, it's amazing, right? So our resume was, don't treat it too seriously, too serious. Yeah? Think about it again. It's overloaded with stuff that you might not correctly interpret when you move to another country. So now the fun thing, the things that you must not do. Denise will tell about it, but first of all, we have some nice media. I hope you enjoy that.
This media has an American host, a British person. I think you probably recognise him. He has a legendary for certain things. The subtitles are in German. Don't worry too much about the German subtitles because they think they're still interesting to you, even if you can't read it. Try to spot where the beeps are against the words. See which words they haven't translated. Okay? It's just interesting.
You will find the original version on YouTube, but I put that out of my television just to show you the one with the subtitles because I love it.
So, nice to see you.
Nice. It's great to see you as well. You're a stud. You're looking good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Are you happy to be back on our show?
I'm so happy to be back. Last time you sat me down there, which was so unfair, because you bring the worst out of me.
No, I don't know because you were being naughty and you knew it, and I had to put you on the naughty step.
Yeah.
I had to just because when you come out, I get that energy, and I got the accent as well. And I just said, you can't. I said, enough's enough.
I try hard.
Yeah, in fact, I figured something. Tonight we have
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Come on.
We have a swear jar, and I brought...
Come on.
I have money. I have all this money right here. So you don't have to have money. And every time you say anything wrong that I think could be this, you have to donate, and it goes to a charity of my choice. But you could also not do it, and and either way, I'll donate money to charity. You do either one. I know you don't do it on purpose.
No, I know.
And I'll try not to get you mad because sometimes I get you angry and on a tangent on something. I'm not going to do it today.
I'm lost for words. Okay, sorry. Okay, stop. We won't need any more.
We won't need any more. Last time you were here, you limped out. Do you remember this?
I did.
Yeah, it was sad.
Yeah, torn Achilles and frustrated.
You had a giant boot on you.
Horrible.
Yeah,
I have size 15 feet, so wearing a big boot is like size 30. So,
So big stack
it was like a
things.
massive stack. It's like a canoe on the end of your foot.
You don't wear size 15 feet.
My feet are size 15.
That
honestly.
is not true.
Yeah, no, seriously.
Let me
honestly.
see. These are size 12.
Yeah, seriously. No,
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
15.
size 15.
Not bad.
Size 15.
You're a big dude, man. Yeah. 15 is that? No. I'm doing that just for that's your fault. That's their fault. They did something that I consider that
Yeah,
maybe.
that's rude.
That
that's
is
naughty,
rude, yeah.
And that is disgusting.
No, I know that
That is so bad.
that
Sorry,
one doesn't. You can't.
sorry.
No, you have to put that in there.
So,
Come on, that's another one.
no, come on.
Stop. Let me talk.
Okay. Why?
Well, how can you play football with those big feet? Because you know what football's different in England and America.
Yeah, soccer.
What do you think of American football?
Love it. In fact, I'm going to my first Super Bowl on Sunday.
You really are?
I cannot wait.
Going in Houston.
Yes.
Houston's great.
I'm so
You must have
excited.
been in Houston, right? Did you have some great food in Houston, right?
Honestly, I
Good
can't
barbecue.
wait. I can't wait. Although someone just told me, literally 2 minutes ago, that on Sunday, this country is going to be eating 1.3 billion chicken wings.
Yeah. Yes, that's
That's
exciting.
not a celebration.
What do you mean?
How many chickens is that?
Come on, well, how many wings do they have? Two
Two
for each
wings. Two wings. Yes.
Yeah.
Did you like it? Did you get the idea? I guess it's totally appropriate to write down the swear words in Germany. So, yeah, what's the issue? Again, discussing that all, we found out we behave more or less the way we do not like it, because if you do something like this, okay, what Denise wants to tell you is that you will need that in a minute. Denise, may I explain it first?
Yes.
Actually, you should explain that. But what we want to find out is that if you do weird things, nobody will listen. So, but sometimes you might lead into the situation that you do weird things, but you yourself don't recognize it. So we want to find out what are the hidden traps. So what we're doing now.
Well, we have a list of questions coming up. You have a chance to hold up a card if you think it's red, yellow, or green. Green being good. Green is acceptable. Red is not.
So translated in my words, red is never acceptable, green is always acceptable, and yellow is somewhere in between, just like the referee cards. And we will show you a bunch of sentences, and you will judge it. And please do it quick, because don't observe your neighbors. That would spoil the results, right? And you want to click, Denise.
Yeah.
So number 1, raise your cards.
Mostly green, we have 2 reds.
I expect it to have 100% so I can write it down. It's a little bit of everything, right? What is dominating?
Dominating green.
Green. Okay.
Some reds though. We ready for the next one?
So the next one.
Sorry about this one.
Next one. Red, yellow.
We have...
And please be honest.
You're bad.
More or less red, right?
Ooh. It's mostly red, I think. Mostly red. I can't believe that some of you gave the other one a yellow and this one a red. What is wrong with you guys?
We have 12 of those, so number 4.
Ready?
Number 5.
Oh. Oh, it's half and half with yellow and green, I think.
It seems to be a hard question.
Yeah.
So what is that? Spread throughout every
yes.
color, right? A little bit of everything. So number 6.
Oh, it's mostly red. We have a mix, but mostly red.
So just a second. Just a second. Number 6. Okay. Number 6. We're halfway through.
Yeah, we did that. Yeah.
Again, a little bit of everything, right?
It's mostly yellow, I think.
Number 7.
I think we've got a majority of green. Green.
Okay, this is very interesting. Remember my words.
Oh.
Number 7. Okay, it's almost green, right? Number 8.
Green mostly, yeah. Green.
Almost green.
Number 9. Green. We've got greens, just a couple, but greens.
Almost green again, but a little bit of everything. Number 10.
Red. Oh, it's going yellow, I think, but
I think it's especially interesting if you think that he's from Australia, you're from the United States, so maybe you had a look.
with yellow. There's a couple of greens.
So this was, what was the result of 10 in your eyes?
Sorry?
What was the result? Almost red?
Almost for number 10 is yellow and
Yellow,
red.
okay. Just wait a second.
We're nearly there.
Wait a second. There was a question?
Yeah, this question is really has 2 parts.
Which one?
Mr. Mark, for Christ's sake is what you're focusing on, but you should never leave the updates. We are technical guys too.
So if there is a
What are
single,
you responding to?
from a formal perspective, if there is one single word that you're not allowed to use, don't do it. So if there are 2 parts in this, one is okay, one not, it's not okay. That's the rule. Okay, number 11.
Red, greens. Oh, we've got a mix. It's going towards
My
red.
ears are
We've got
bloody.
a lot of greens and yellow.
Mixed up, right?
Very mixed, yeah.
And the final one.
We got the reds.
Okay, what's the result? Almost green, right?
Yeah, almost green.
So, just you're the one with you're the English native speaker. So, be so kind to explain a little bit about what we saw, just to look and all the things. Of course, it's hard to find out. Is that a good idea to do it? And before we started, I told you we will think and we will speak about things you must not say. That's it. Because we have to apply to the rules. I'm German, and it's not my job to find out if this is allowed in the Netherlands. If it's impolite, it's impolite. I may find that disgusting, and I would do that in my own language by maybe I'm a guest in the country. So most of us deliver in English as a second language, or sometimes English as a first language, so we have to apply to the rules somehow. You may cross the border. Okay, that's up to you, but you should know that there is one. So, Denise, there is one, right?
There is. We have a slide coming up with the real do not do and I would never do in the reds. So, but as you say, some of it's a bit of an opinion, so we'll see. Can I move the
Yes,
slide?
of course.
I couldn't bear to have those words written up, so.
We made some pictures. We have the recording. You can go through that all later on. But there are concerns about that.
If I have a sat with a colleague, my answers will be different. If I sat with a colleague, my answers will be different in other countries. We sat with a customer, we sat with a presentation. So this question for me is so.
I guess there's one misunderstanding, but you're much more perfect to explain that. If you are, let's come back to the funny video. If you transport some message and you got somehow beeped away, there is no message. Yeah? That's it. So if you screw it up by using words that offend the listener, there is no excuse. It's not that we judge it. From my personal perspective, I'm German. You saw our subtitles. It's ludicrous. I always say it like that. Yes, but I think it's super interesting to say, I know now that it is offending. And we can prove that. And one proof is here.
Well, the thing being is, if you offend someone in your classroom, that is all they can think about, is you've used something you shouldn't have said. So the message is really, if you're in doubt, don't say it, especially when you've got a mixed audience and mixed cultures.
So if I do something like that, she can tell you whatever she wants, you won't listen to her. And if she does it with her beautiful red shoes, I can leave the room. Nobody takes care. You won't get transported the message. That's it, what we're talking about.
I train a lot in Belgium. They speak the same language, but they don't. So at the first, when I introduce myself, I tell them that I'm from the Netherlands, that I speak more or less the same language, that if I say something that might offend them, that it's never meant that way. So to just take the thing away, because I might think I'm, say something that means something totally different there, but it's still the same word.
We got one more perfect expert for this kind of stuff, because I know from Pierre and Rose that there's a certain different behavior in these terms in Spain, the mainland Spain, and the Americas, right? So if we hand out the microphone to Rose, I guess she could talk for 2 hours about that. And this is exactly the same language. It's not close to each other. It's more or less it's Spanish, right? So complete different message about that. So I think it's pretty interesting. You're crossing the border, and you prove that this is an issue because it was colored. It was not green and red. But in real life, it's red. It's beeping or not being beeped away.
Thorsten, question.
Yes, I think it's another dimension to this as well. Is how you say it, not just the word. It's if you say it in a funny way, but you're actually using the words. I don't think it's that serious. I think, personally.
It does depend on who you've got in your room, of course, in the training room.
Yeah, but I think you can still use a funny attitude and make it a fun way of saying it, instead of really being pissed off and really, really angry. Then you probably...
That's why we have the Irish word there. You can also say Egypt.
I perfectly get what you mean, but it's dangerous.
More questions?
More than a comment than a question. It's not about us, the trainers. It's about the recipients. And for example, I once learned it the hard way. No jokes about religion in classroom, because you never know how this is received on the other side, and stuff like that really sticks. And you don't know how these words are, what they are triggering on the other side. And therefore, one of the advices I took really seriously was try to avoid the offenses. Sometimes you have to be bold and make some really clear statements. Yeah, but you could use some kind of the words on the green side. But it depends on the audience. So you need an awareness whom you are talking to, and then you need the adjustment. It really depends on the message you want to bring across. Thank you.
Yeah, just to remind you something, guys. I don't know how many of you are teaching in UK. You know that the perfect way to keep everybody happy is to give a break between 11:45 to 1:15 on Friday. You know that. You don't. Keep that in mind, especially if you have mixed culture people in your classroom. Secondly, I'm Greek. So obviously, I think that I can swear a lot in my own language. Let's put it this way. Everywhere around Europe, they know at least 2 words. Remind that to yourselves, especially the Italians, because I had an Italian colleague on the other classroom swearing again for the same thing, because we were delivering with online labs, and he was swearing in Italian, and obviously everybody understands it. But keep the cultural thing in your mind.
There was one more.
In the Netherlands, I have a strict rule for no politics, no religion, but also no soccer, because you no, but those are.
Guess why?
No, the reason is you cannot discuss certain subjects because you have a certain opinion about it, which is almost non-discussable. So you only get into an argument which is not productive in a classroom. But I also want to mention that these words of jokes or whatever, if you think you can use certain words in the classroom, if you use them during lunch, and there's a different class also having lunch. A colleague of mine got into deep trouble because he made a joke about Jehovah's Witnesses. And on the other table, there was one who complained to the manager, and he got a very big reprimand for that. So even if you think it's suitable for your group, if you talk loud, which we do.
Okay, I've got another one to add to the list then. One of my classes, many years ago, it was coming up to Christmas, and I just happened to mention that I'd taken my kids to this farm to choose the turkey that we were going to have killed to eat. And I had a woman in my class burst into tears because she was a vegetarian, and she thought what I'd just done and how I'd taken my children to this place to see these turkeys being killed was atrocious. So, another thing to think about.
Oh dear.
We got time.
And you tweet about it.
Regarding swear words, some of you might have heard me sometimes swear schlamoch, which is actually a curse word I invented years ago, so that allows you were talking about swearing in your own language. If you have to swear, come up with something which is not insulting to anyone. That works. On the other end, regarding religion, politics, topics, and I know I'm taking a risk, but I've always had discussions on those topics because how else am I going to learn? And I think, as you pointed out, it is how you approach it. If you make a joke about the religion, that's bad. If you actually question them or you show an interest in their religion, they typically are interested in sharing.
Got time? More comments?
Did somebody else?
So you might have found out that
one more.
it's very common, just one comment from me.
Hello.
It's very common in the United States and in English that people say something like G to avoid naming it Jesus. This is not done by accident. This is one of the techniques used to avoid the real name Jesus, or not to say Christ. So we might be kidding in our own culture about that, but this is an issue.
Got to be careful. In the Netherlands, even people take offense of that because they know what you mean. So how far can you go?
Okay.
So my father was studying to be a priest. I think you can imagine he didn't become one. But they were taught, he was taught that's offensive too. Anything that starts with a J referred back to that offensive word. So, be even more, usually I would say the other way around, but it can be even, you can imagine, and the other comment to Mark is, be really sure that word doesn't mean something very offensive in a language you haven't thought about. And I remember that a big oil company thought about a new name, and it meant to break your car down in a language it didn't survey. It customer, so yeah, okay. But that's how you write it. You cannot see how you speak it.
Okay. So I had a very nice situation happen to me 2 months ago. I was starting a training with new people, and they asked me what was happening with the exam. Could they do the exam in Portuguese instead of English? And I said, don't do that. It's a terrible translation. No, because that is translated in Brazil, and Brazilian translators, this is for the cameras, Brazilian translators just use Google Translate instead of Bing Translate, okay? So it's terrible, really bad. So you're gonna fail the exam just because you don't understand the words. So this should be a normal thing, and people should just say, okay, I'll do it in English. But when people introduce themselves, oh, there's a Brazilian guy. Oh, hi. Oops. Okay, yeah, I'm still sticking to the bad exam translation thing. So, but the guy was okay with it. But yeah, not a comfortable situation, but it was okay.
Thank you.
So to wrap it up, I guess we should ask Denise for a final comment to the parental advisory. From my point of view, if you see a CD with a sticker on it, the right-hand side is the US version, pretty well known in Germany. The left-hand side is the UK version. Nobody knows that. So to me, this is like a quality label for the young kids. So they're really used to buy that just because of the parental advisory. But could you translate that from your point of view, what that really means? The sticker on it, would you buy that for your children?
No.
Okay. So our resume is, you need to know about it. Lots of you say, I decide how I talk. And if I go beyond, I go beyond. You can do that as an artificial way of talking to people. Maybe it's a good idea if you go into comedy or into cooking, what you already saw. But there are, if we stick to English as a foreign language, there are distinct rules, and we simply have to know them. And if you don't believe us, read Wikipedia or any other source. It's a serious issue.
Thank you.
So, this is our final wrap-up. What it all comes out is, you cannot not communicate.
Oh.
That's a great quote. So, no matter what
he
you
said.
no matter what you do, you always behave. You're never neutral, and in your own language, you can you have a good overview of what you do express. And I think we got lost of, or we have not that knowledge in English. I do not have it. And we found out that by accident, because just talking to each other. And one final comment from me, the phrases that you saw, they are all live from you. I just transformed it so that you don't recognize it.
So, okay, so that's it.
That's it? Okay, thank you.
Hope you enjoyed it.
And we have a bonus track if you like. Do we have time? We're pretty good in time here. I didn't expect it to be. Are you interested in a bonus track? Just a second. That's one's hidden. Maybe you should put the cameras off.
This is shocking, by the way.
Interesting is that it's not beeped.
This one's from @Greg Knight, 18. He says, the dentist that pulled out my wisdom teeth is named Dr. Wank. I went home with ice packs that said I got yanked by Dr. Wank. Oh, God. Come on, that's fantastic.
Dr. Wank? That was your nickname
I got one a t-shirt. What's that?
That was your nickname in high school, wasn't it?
It was Dr. Wank.
Oh my God. His Fitbit is high.
120,000 steps. But
wow, he hasn't left his room.
He hasn't left his room.
This is with Dr. Wank?
Yanked by Dr. Wank.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a nice summer.